I'm on my phone, and all of the signs point towards me actually being live on Facebook. The quality is terrible. The picture is reversed. But unlike using the caca-doo-doo program I've been using for the past few years, which is called Mevo, at least I can be fairly assured that when I press the magic button on my telephone, you will be seeing and hearing this week's episode of Tent Talks Tunes. I see that my number one man, Alan Versapellis, is here in the house with us. Thank you, Alan. Alan, you are just about always the first one to log on when I go on live, so good to have you. Wesley Dixon, hello, Wesley. Good to see ya. Good to hear ya. I know I'm backwards and incredibly low res, but at least I am on. I'm actually going to take a second to step back there and turn that light off because, yes, I do kind of like the halo effect, but it gets tiresome after a while. So hang on a second. This is live video streaming at its best in the time-honored tradition of cable television. Courtesy of the internet, yes, we have Tent Talks Tunes, in which I, little old me, this one guy with a phone, can go out live over the entire known universe to talk about music and musical objects and things musical and things relating to musical objects, all the while swilling off my wonderful trademark 1-gallon jug of Danbury tap water. A toast to all of you guys who are watching and who watch me every week here on Tent Talks Tunes, whether live on Facebook every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or archived forever on my YouTube channel and or my Facebook. Excuse me. I see that my compadre, the almighty anti-scene Walt Wheat, is tuned in from Hattiesburg, Mississippi. That's M-I, crooked letter I, crooked letter I, humpback I. Hello, Walt. Good to see ya. Walt is apparently on the verge of making some anti-scene bowling shirts. I don't know if that's actually going to happen or not, but I've heard some rumblings about that. Walt, do you want to chime in and tell us about the anti-scene bowling shirts? The people really want to know. The people need to know. John Howard is tuned in. John Howard, former Trash American Style employee, who I had a very pleasant visit with a little while ago in the District of Columbia. John Howard shares a very interesting, what do I call it, factoid, commonality, trait. John Howard shares a very interesting trait with another Trash American Style employee who came many years after John's stint behind the counter at Trash. John Howard is one of two, count them, two former Trash American Style workers who have made a record with Jowe Head. Jowe Head of the Swell Maps and television personalities, in case you didn't know that. What are the odds, I ask you genuinely, what are the odds of one record store having two employees at different times, years apart, make a record with Jowe Head of the television personalities and of the Swell Maps? I ask you, what are the odds? How slim, how against any human ability to reckon the numbers, how completely bizarre are the odds of Trash American Style having two employees making records with Jowe Head, unbeknownst to each other, many years apart. And not only that, both of them being bangers. They're both really, really cool, great records. Love them both. And if I really did have my act together, I would be able to show you the one made by John. Actually, do I have it over there? Hang on a second. You guys might be in for a real treat. I might actually leave the camera again. I might actually go over there and grab a prop. This is another unprecedented event. Unprecedented, where I'm going to leave the studio chair twice in one program to grab something. Hang on a second. Just you guys, you have some patience there, right? This is going to be worth it. This is going to be worth it. See, it didn't take very long. It's almost as if I never left. I've got this stack of vinyl that I will be taking to the Danbury Record and CD Expo this Saturday in Danbury. I think I showed and told about a couple of these last week. Beatles picture sleeves. Got a couple of good ones there. Strawberry Fields Forever. These are originals, baby. What else am I taking? Well, you know, I'm going to have a Devo record, at least one Devo record. There's a copy of Whip It. What else am I taking with me? Speaking of Anti-Scene, the Anti-Scene Sloppy Seconds split picture disc. Look at that, genuine picture disc. I know it's backwards. Any of you folks out there with dyslexia will certainly not have a problem with this. I'm going to have that in Danbury. Going to have the most excellent release, Scott Savage's Memento Mori, a fine example of 1970s independent rock and roll from North Carolina, released on the Long-Haired Weirdo label. You're going to have that. I'm actually showing you pretty much every single 45 I'm going to have with me, because unlike your typical by-the-numbers Danbury Record and CD Expo, all of my inventory is in storage right now in preparation for the big move to North Carolina. And I was not sure if I was going to be in Danbury on November 23rd, because this whole process was set in motion back in April. So I had to plan for the move and not necessarily bank that I would be in Connecticut on November 23rd. So I had to box up and pack away all of my inventory. But of course, since then, I've been out in the field, at record swap meets and record stores, picking up things. So I was able to cobble together a nice crate of LPs and a short stack of 7-inchers. So this Saturday, November 23rd, at the Danbury Record and CD Expo, I'm going to have some stuff. Not a whole lot, but some stuff. How about this King Gizzard and the Wizard Lizard? Or is that King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard? Hand-lathed 7-inch hi-fi stereo single of Horology. I made this myself. Limited edition of 25 copies on beautiful, 100% transparent, hand-lathed vinyl. Each one of them cut by hand by a genuine craftsman in Tallahassee, Florida. This is the real stuff, kids. On a similar note, one that is a definite career highlight for me, the Malcolm Tent Power Duo featuring David Kendrick. David Kendrick being the drummer of Devo, Sparks, Shoo Shoo, Gleaming Spires, and a host of others. And a real gentleman and one of the best drummers I've ever shared the stage with. A genuine privilege. This is a hand-cut lo-fi, monophonic 7-inch single, also in an edition of 25. I'll be packing these with me this Saturday at the Danbury Record and CD Expo. And wouldn't you know it, I did all this not just because I love to advertise and to toot my own horn, but because I was working my way towards the record by Jowe Head and Fleeting Glimpses, former Trash American Style alum John Howard on the drums and guitar. Am I right about that? Actually, guitar, drums and production. His wonderful wife Martha on the bass, and Jowe Head on everything else. Very slim odds, but it happened. Comes with a button, too. I will have this Saturday, representing 50% of all Trash American Style former employees' collaborations with Jowe Head on vinyl. Mazel tov, guys. Boy, howdy, I just unwittingly blabbed on and on and on about the Danbury Record and CD Expo, which is happening this Saturday, November 23rd. And I'll be there. So I don't gotta talk about it no mo. I'm done talking about that. I will talk about December 7th, however. And I see that Walt Wheat has posted that the anti-scene bowling shirts are going to be happening by the end of the year. Very exciting. This was all brought about by the fact that Walt made his own anti-scene bowling shirt at our last run of shows in Texas and Louisiana, and one frantic fan bought the shirt off his back. Like, laid down cold, hard cash for Walt's custom-made anti-scene bowling shirt. And, well, you know, when opportunity knocks, you can't be standing behind the door. So Walt stood front and center, loud and proud, and made it known that it can be done again and again. So I suggest you keep an eye, or two, maybe both eyes, on the Anti-Scene Facebook page for updates about this exciting garment opportunity. Yeah, Anti-Scene, December 7th, Milestone, Charlotte, North Carolina. 55-year anniversary of the Milestone. That is double nickels at the Stone. Who's headlining that anniversary celebration? Concert? Anti-Scene, duh. Who's opening? Our good pals from Mobile, Alabama, Future Hate. They rock so hard that they couldn't contain their rockdom in the state of Alabama. They had to take it to North Carolina because no one state can contain Future Hate. It is impossible. So, Future Hate and Dallas Tetanus from the great city of Raleigh, North Carolina, will be strutting all their stuff on stage December 7th at the Milestone with us. Anti-Scene. 55 years of the Milestone. The longest running independent venue, definitely in the South, and quite possibly in the entire US of A. That's pretty cool. That is stick-to-itness and longevity. So big swig of Danbury Tap and salute to the Milestone for sticking it out all these years and hosting, literally, like no joke, thousands and thousands of amazing bands, both from North Carolina and all over the world. Cheers. If you want to give the Milestone instant credibility, like it needed credibility, instant credibility, I'm sure you can look up the audio recording of Nirvana live at the Milestone in, I think, 1989. It is there. It is out there. Blazing soundboard performance in Charlotte, North Carolina. That's the stuff that legends are made of. Oh, yeah. What else have we got going on here? Well, that was the bulletin board, talking about the Danbury Record and CD Expo and the upcoming Milestone 55th anniversary celebration featuring Anti-Scene. We got one piece of mail here. People have been asking, hey man, are you still accepting mail at P.O. Box 3626 Newtown, Connecticut 06470? You can see that backwards. That is the address. The answer is yes. Yes, I am still accepting mail at P.O. Box 3626 Newtown, Connecticut 06470. Because I'm still here in Connecticut for the time being. And after I skedaddle, I'm going to have the mail forwarded. And then once I land in North Carolina and have a permanent address, I will clue you guys in, and we can keep our mail exchange going once that happens. But for now, Newtown is still in effect. And this is from, I don't know, this is from AGP, care of B. Garza in Indianapolis, Indiana. See, if you go there and you say Indianapolis, they know that you're not from around there. But if you say Indianapolis, they know you're from around there. Let's grab the 2-mile scissors here, like so, and see what has arrived in my P.O. box from Indianapolis. Indianapolis is a lovely town. I played there once when I was doing my bit with Prophononica. We played the Heavy Hell Festival, and it was a lot of fun. I got what might have been the best backstage vegan chow in all of my touring years. It didn't seem like much on the menu as a vegan stew of some sort. And, you know, they do that because it's fast and easy and cheap to make, and you can feed a lot of people on the DL that way, but core blimey, it was good. Man, that was good. And if we hadn't flown into Indianapolis, I would have taken a bucket of that stuff back with me, but trying to get a bucket of stew on the plane, no go, bro. Yo, yo, yo. So anyway, from Indianapolis, a very sweet-smelling package. A perfumed letter of some sort in here. Packaged in cardboard very thoughtfully. And you saw me cut that envelope open. This is a cold unveiling. I have no idea what this is. I don't know who these people are or why they sent me these things. But I think I know this name. Mannequin Seller. Oh yes, we have done some business with Mannequin Seller. And this label, it all comes back to me now. This is in exchange for a Fried Man cassette that I sent them, which was in exchange for, I believe, a Mannequin Seller release of some sort that I thought was really cool. And here it is, guys. Deluxe packaging, big fat envelope. You can tell there's a cassette in there. We open up the envelope. It smells so nice. Where is it? Got the cassette. Yep, there it is, a cassette featuring the cover, a woman, on both aspects of the packaging. A genuine handwritten letter. I love these handwritten letters. From my main dog, Bobby, out in Indianapolis. There it is, with what looks like a very exciting piece of original artwork. Oh, yes. You can't make that on a computer. No way, Jose. You need pen and paper. Thank you very much. CD promo too. Life is good. We're living large here on Tent Talks Tunes. My Lord. Something to listen to when I'm driving out of North Carolina for the Anti-Scene Milestone 55th Anniversary Celebration. What else are we celebrating around here? What else are we going to drink? A toast of Danbury Tap to. Well, let me tell you, I got some stuff. Even on this crap-a-doodle low-res camera situation, I'm sure you guys will be able to make out the wonder, the astonishment, the, oh my God, I never thought I would see it actualized. Actuality! You guys are seeing the very first ever CD. First ever CD, fully assembled. First ever cassette, fully assembled, of TPOS number 147, Song, Poem, Insanity. Oh, yes. I've been working on this release now for years. If I weren't such a productive guy, cranking out product almost every minute of every day on my fabulous label TPOS, I'd be embarrassed by how long it takes for these things to get out sometimes. But the only reason it takes so long is because I'm a busy guy. I'm a busy guy. And so there's always something on the back burners. There's always something on the front burners. I've got a spare stove over in the next room with burners on it, with things cooking and simmering. Each of those stoves has got an oven with something in it. It just never stops. So to give you guys an idea, I'm going to reach over to another prop here. This is the actual printed list of TPOS releases to date. And you can see it is a worn out, threadbare, dog-eared set of documents. I keep track of everything I've ever released on TPOS on paper. And a lot of them are printed on old flyers. This one dating back to 1999. That's how long this shiz has been going on. TPOS number 147 dates back to this sheet of paper right here. And the surrounding releases, for example, TPOS number 148 came out in 2014. TPOS 144 came out in 2014. So it's a pretty safe bet that this release right here has been gestating for 10 years. 1 decade on planet Earth. This thing has been in the works. And now here it is. Song, poem, insanity. What is it, you might ask? I'll tell you what it is. Same deal. I wish that this telephone wasn't so low res and cock-a-doodoo, but if you read Popular Mechanics, if you read Marvel Comics or DC Comics, if you read professional wrestling magazines, if you read romance magazines, you would probably see these ads in the back, for companies saying, hey, do you write lyrics? Send them to us. Nashville songwriters need lyrics. You could get rich. You could get airplay. You could have your lyrics set to music and have a record of it. And so people would send in their lyrics, their poems, their songs, their paranoid schizophrenic scribblings. It didn't matter. They would get a letter in return saying, hey, your stuff is great. For a fee, we will set your writing to music. And it didn't matter. Didn't matter if the writing was good. Didn't matter if it was bad. Didn't matter if it was paranoid scribblings from somebody in a straitjacket using this much writing ability. Didn't matter. It was all worthy of consideration. And if the person who did the writing was willing to pay the dollars, they would get a record in return. John Coletti, John the Bomb Coletti, longtime Connecticut punk rock icon. John will be set up at the Danbury Record and CD Expo with a table of who knows what. But yes, John the Bomb Coletti says, beat of the traps. And if you guys want a very succinct synopsis of what song, poem, insanity is all about, just look up Beat of the Traps. That's the compilation album of song, poem tracks that got me hooked on the genre and made me want to track down every single song, poem record I possibly could. I've collected dozens of them over the years. And so what I did was gone through every single one of them and culled out the best of them. Because the vast, overwhelming majority of song, poem records are not very interesting. They're usually very by the numbers, generic lyrics set to very by the numbers, generic music. But every once in a while, something magic will occur. Sometimes it is indeed the rantings and ravings of a paranoid schizophrenic set to an amazing piece of music. Sometimes it's a really good set of lyrics. You know, who's going to define good, right? But a good set of lyrics wedded to some really cool music. You just never know. So I compiled 23 tracks from my personal stash that range from completely nuts to genuinely good on this compilation, Song, Poem, Insanity. It is out now after 10 years of blood, toil, tears, and sweat. I listed it on Discogs last night. I'm going to list it on Bandcamp and eBay soonly. So keep your eyes open for that. That's a real labor of love for me. And if you guys understand my aesthetic and my sense of humor and my sense of what's good and bad, and you dig it, you're going to love Song, Poem, Insanity. So another thing to keep your eye open for. Wesley Dixon says, cool. I think he's right. What else has been going on? Well, this project has been on the back burner for about 5 years now. About 5 years. It is now on the frontest burner possible. I hold in my hands right here a book. A book. Not Kindle or a PDF file. This is a book with pages. It's got a back cover and it's got a front cover. And this, my friends, is the first bound proof copy of the memoirs of Len Colby, who was the roadie, videographer, and merch guy for G.G. Allin in the years 1991, 1992. He was also a friend of the guy. They hung out together. They spent quality time together. And Len put down his memoirs, and he very unfortunately died a couple of years ago, but he got it all down in writing before he shuffled off this mortal coil. And here it is. The book itself, talked about for a long time. The first bound proof of it. And I must say it looks pretty darn good. It's got Len's story. It's got a lot of photos he took, quite a few of which were never seen. It's got a foreword by Michael Board. It's got a foreword by Chicken John. It's got an afterword by Mark Rentzer. All people who knew and worked with Gigi, along with Len, and so are qualified to be a part of this book. I am extremely excited about this finally seeing fruition after several years. Next step, to get the copies printed and on the market. So watch out. It's happening. It is happening. I better drink to that too. You want to know what this stuff is? This is a bunch of junk mail. This is a copy of our local paper, the Newtown Bee. And a few random things that I have gotten in the mail, stuff here, this envelope may contain a $100 check. This could be your big opportunity to get new windows. Lots of glossy paper, happy smiling Caucasians with children. All this stuff. Why am I showing you my junk mail? Bottles of liquor, all kinds of stuff you get in the mailbox. Why am I showing you my junk mail? Because I've got some releases coming up, and because of my big move and having just about all of my stuff packed up, I need to explore new ways of expressing myself and making cover art for upcoming releases. So I'm going to take all this junk mail right here and put it to good use by making collages. I really enjoy making collages. Oh, look, there's a pizza. That's going to look good on a collage. What else looks good on a collage? A McMansion. We got a McMansion, a pizza, a happy baby brushing her teeth. I can juxtapose these in any number of ways. There's a backhoe with a giant log. This is all going to be put on a collage or two for an upcoming Bunny Brains cassette release. And I'm very excited to be doing that because digital graphics are certainly great and they're a lot of fun and I've gotten pretty good at it, but I haven't done anything with like scissors and glue, scissors. Glue, paper, all the things that we used to make artwork with. I am going to single-handedly resurrect the art of collage for these upcoming Danbury record show release date Bunny Brains cassettes. It's going to happen. Hopefully I'll have them done by then. I haven't started them yet. But collage, guys, collage. How cool is that? Paper, glue, and scissors. I'm looking forward to it. You know what else I'm looking forward to? Telling you people about some of the wild records I've come across lately in my travels. Oh yeah, wild records I've come across in my travels. Now, let me look at the screen here and make sure that I'm still streaming live, because you never know. Chris Rubit says, collage. You're right, Chris, collage. Collage is coolage. And John the Bomb Coletti has indeed posted a link to Beat of the Traps. I just got to reiterate, if you guys love the wacky, wonderful, wild, sublime, and ridiculous, check that one out, and check out the World of Song Poems, because it's just non-stop. I've come up with some really wild stuff here. Traveling around this great country of ours. Playing gigs at night. Hitting record stores by day. And occasionally doing a little bit of mail order. See, these first two records on the stack tie in very neatly with the song poem obsession. I actually got a couple of song poem records recently in the wild. They're by a song poem artist I'd never heard of before called Jim Wheeler. And they're on a label I didn't know of called Panorama. And the giveaway to this, it's like, how do you know that this completely generic, nondescript record is actually a song poem record? Well, the giveaway was that if you look at the credits, it's Jim Wheeler with the now sounds of the Film City Orchestra. That's the giveaway, the Film City Orchestra. Film City was a long-running and extremely prolific song poem label. So to have something on this very strange, nondescript, generic record by a guy I never heard of, by the Film City Orchestra, looked very promising. So I got it. And there's another record by Jim Wheeler on, not the Panorama label, but the Triumph label. Same deal, completely nondescript, completely generic. You never know exactly what it was, but it's also credited to the, well, this is not the now sound, but simply the Hollywood Film City Orchestra. Pretty good clue that it's a song poem. And sure enough, I listened to them, and on this one, I heard the unmistakable sounds of the great Rod Keith, a.k.a. Rod Rogers, a.k.a. Rude Keith, a.k.a. John Doe, a.k.a. dozens of other names. Rod Rogers was the acknowledged king of the song poems. This guy was a bona fide genius. Singer, songwriter, arranger, keyboardist. And in some bizarre alternate universe, Rod Rogers would be right up there with Elton John, Billy Joel, Leon Russell, Sun Ra, for gosh sakes. Genuine, brilliant writers and keyboardists. Somewhere there's a planet out there in an alternate dimension where Rod Rogers is Elton John. But here on this planet, Rod Rogers ended up just cranking out dozens and dozens and dozens of these song poem records. And as mentioned before, some of them are, the vast majority of them are really bland, uninteresting, and nondescript. Some of them are absolutely nutso, beyond belief nuts. Some of them are good, and a lot of them are on the spectrum in between. And these two by Jim Wheeler with backing tracks by Rod Rogers. Let's see, what are my liner notes on this? There's one called That Certain Feeling, which features a Rod instrumental track, and it is charming. And it really is. It's a really sweet little number with really well-written lyrics and a really great vocal performance from this guy, Jim Wheeler, who's got a really good voice. A lot of these song poem people either didn't care to use their good voices or just didn't have good voices. So you really never know. And then this one song called Christian by Jim Wheeler. My notes say, obviously sight read over a dead old instrumental track with some Rod Rogers keyboards overdubbed on top. Very strange combination of elements on this. You really got to hear them to understand these things. They're so weird. I love them. Just love them. You know who else I love? That's weird and is practically unknown here in the US of A, but is, I think, a bona fide star north of the border in Canada, or as they say up there, Canada. Same deal. It's kind of like Indianapolis. If you go to Canada and say Canada, they'll know you're not from around there. You got to say Canada. So, bona fide star in Canada, but basically unknown here in the US, but who I love, Stompin' Tom Connors. Oh, yes. Stompin' Tom Connors, the Canadian country western guy who is absolutely wacky, whimsical, wonderful, brilliant. I first heard of Stompin' Tom through, of course, as you might have guessed, Devo circles. Somebody on one of the Devo fan pages posted a cartoon video for a song called Bud the Spud, a song about a potato. You know, if you're near Devo fans, you're going to end up talking about potatoes eventually. So this video was really funny, and the song was really great. It was totally wacky and wild. I loved it. And then somewhere, not too much longer, I found the source album for it, which is pictured on that one, if I can get it framed properly. Stompin' Tom Connors, Bud the Spud. And you'll notice a lot of potatoes on that album cover. Picked it up, loved it, fell in love with Stompin' Tom Connors. And I got to reiterate, his stuff is not easy to find here in the States. He's probably got about 24 albums out in Canada. And Capitol Records up in Canada actually did a big reissue of a bunch of his records, including this one, Stompin' Tom meets Big Joe Mefferaw. And there he is. There's the man himself, Stompin' Tom Connors. Looking pensive, thinking about potatoes, no doubt. Every song I've heard by this guy is a hit. Really, really cool. And in fact, if and when we do the next Anti-Scene big road trip, and I'm in the driver's seat, Walt Wheat, I'm giving you fair warning, you're going to hear some Stompin' Tom Connors. It's just going to happen. Stompin' Tom Connors. And I found 2 of his albums in the wild recently. Love it. Love it. Here's something else I got. This is a wonderful case of exploito rock and roll from the early 60s. Hot Rod Alley. Yes. Hot Rod Alley. Walt Wheat says, bring it on, ding dong. Well, I will. You're going to get some Stompin' Tom in the tour van, Walt. Mike Lesser, watching us on a train to Hiroshima. Right on. At 7:39 a.m. approximately. Mike is on vacation in the great country of Japan. Mike, thanks for tuning in on that train. That's really cool. I don't think I get aired in Japan very often. So yeah, thanks to you, Mike. Feather in my cap. Japanese. I love it. Maybe the people on the train in Japan will be interested in hearing about this Hot Rod Alley record, which is one of those records I've talked about so much in the past. Sleazy, cheesy, exploitation, cash-in record on whatever the teenagers were buying at a given moment, which has basically nothing to do with the actual hot rod culture or anything. Yes, Chrissy, Pissy Chrissy herself is tuned in, and she says, oh no, that Hot Rod album. Oh, you know it. You know it. This record is terrible. It was probably written and recorded in one afternoon. You can tell. I guess the trend of the day that they were cashing in on was I guess there was a song called Hot Rod Lincoln, because side 1, track 1 is a pretty uninteresting version of a song called Hot Rod Lincoln. And then there's 8 other songs on this album that go through great pains to mention Hot Rod Lincoln in the lyrics. And each one is basically a rewrite of the song Hot Rod Lincoln. They're like identical, carbon copy, cookie cutter versions of Hot Rod Lincoln. Just one after another, with a few completely boring, run-of-the-mill, generic country western songs thrown in to fill out the album. So who's into hot rod culture would find anything of interest in this record once they plunk down their 88 cents? Probably nobody. Nobody! Which is why it ended up basically in a garbage heap at a tag sale that I found. Yes, I will fish stuff like this out of the garbage and find it immensely rewarding. Hot Rod Alley on the ever so mortal Crown record label. Crown was one of those labels that just did nothing but sleazy, cheesy, exploito cash-in records. What an endless world of possibilities. Love it. Now here's something. Actually, I found a couple of 45s recently at a tag sale. Anybody who's been to yard sales, tag sales, flea markets, record swaps know that there's always boxes of 45s. And 99.9% of the 45s in these boxes are beat up junk. Absolute boring, generic top 40 drivel. Nobody needs another copy of the Pina Colada song on 45. Nobody needs a scratchy, beat-up copy of Achy Breaky Heart on 45. Nobody needs to have... there's just so many of them. Life in the Fast Lane by the Eagles on a scratchy, beat-up 45. There's millions and millions and millions and millions of them. To the extent where I, not only being a full-time professional record dealer, not only being a little bit loco in El Coco when it comes to digging through stacks and stacks of records, even I usually don't bother with the boxes of 45s. I mean, that's a tough job of work, as they say over in the UK. Excuse me. But every now and again, I'll be at a record show, and I'll make the rounds real fast and not ready to go home yet, so I'll start digging through the boxes of 45s. And I'll do that until I just can't do it anymore, which is usually about 15-20 minutes. Sometimes I'll be at a tag sale, and they'll have a small box of 45s. So I'll dig through them. And I'll reiterate, 99.9 whatever percent of the time, it is junk, it is garbage. But every once in a while, you'll find something interesting. Like this one right here. This looked promising right off the bat. It's on an obscure label called Caden Records. It's by a group called The Shags. No, not The Shags you think it is. What are the song titles on this? Breathe on Me on the A side. Already I'm kind of hooked on that. And Easy Street on the B side. Well, it turns out The Shags were a Connecticut garage band in the 60s. And this is one of the records they put out. And it's totally beat up. It's maybe in G+ condition on a good day. Totally beat up. Just about playable. But man, it rocks. It rocks. It rocks hard. It's got a stinging fuzz guitar on the A side. And it's, usual 60s garage teenage piss and vinegar from Connecticut. That was a score. I'm sure it's out there on YouTube somewhere. Breathe on Me. Sorry, Breathe in My Ear. The label's really worn out and I didn't have my specs focused. Breathe in My Ear. That's an even better song title. Look up the Shags, Breathe in My Ear. If you like 60s garage rock, I think you'll like this one. Found another really beat-up old 45 that's not really in sellable condition, but certainly in condition enough for me to keep for my personal collection. Pissy Chrissy, if you're still watching, you're going to like this one. A guy named Chet Poison Ivy doing a song called, I can't make it up, guys, even backwards, maybe you can see it, Shake a Poo-Poo. Yes, Shake a Poo-Poo by Chet Poison Ivy. And it's actually a really good hard-driving 70s funk number. Tight rhythm section on this one. Beat to death, but I can play it. Keeping that one. I also found, speaking of Stompin' Tom Connors earlier, Stompin' Tom had a record label of his own in Canada called Boot Records. And he had a few artists signed to his label, including this guy named Charles Russell. One side called Schoolin', one side called The Bricklin'. You know, I was hooked by the song title, The Bricklin'. What's a bricklin'? Is it a dance step? Is it a city? What is it? Turns out that the Bricklin' was a low-budget sports car that a guy named Bricklin tried to introduce in Canada. And it was a flop. And this is a satire talking blues record about the Bricklin' from 1975. And it's got a lot of very, very specific Canadian references, which to me makes it really cool. And it's also from 1975. And what's he singing about besides the Bricklin'? Oh, you know, the members of Parliament want a pay increase, cost of living, rampant inflation, you know, all the usual stuff. Nothing ever changes. This record could have been made a few years ago. You just changed some of the names and you got the same record. But yeah, the Bricklin', immortalized on a 45 on Stompin' Tom's label. Keeper. That one will not be for sale at the Danbury Record and CD Expo this Saturday. You know why? Because it's mine. It's mine. It's all mine, and you can't have it. Just saying. Last one I'm going to show you guys. Also a keeper. Sorry, not sorry. Another beat-up old record, but it's just about playable, and I immediately saw the song title. I hope you guys can look this out. A white label promo from Warner Brothers Records in the 1960s called Some Things Just Stick in Your Mind. Some Things Just Stick in Your Mind. Any Stones fans out there? This is a quiz. Can I see a thumbs up or a heart or a fist or a perfection sign or something? Anybody out there who's a Stones fan? Any Stones fans out there? This is live, so I'm going to just sit here and wait a second for the internet lag time to kick in. If any Stones fans are out there, I want you to represent. Yeah, we got some reactions there. Okay, Stones fans. I got quite a few of you guys. All right, cool. Stones fans. Miss Jill, my honorable ancestor from They Hate Us. Keith says yes, Jill says no. Okay, so the ancient They Hate Us rhythm section is split 50-50 on Stones yes, Stones no. Wesley Dixon says yes. Mike Lesser says yes. Okay, this is really going to polarize everybody. The Rolling Stones Metamorphosis album. If you guys know the Metamorphosis album, I want to see either a thumbs up or a thumbs down. If you guys, and it's a really obscure Stones record, so I'm not expecting a whole lot of action, but maybe somebody out there knows that record. It's one of those albums that really evokes strong opinions. Oh, I'm getting a bunch of thumbs ups for Metamorphosis. Okay. Genuinely wasn't expecting that. I was expecting a few more thumbs downs on that one. So Metamorphosis. If you guys know Metamorphosis and you like Metamorphosis, then you definitely know the song title, Some Things Just Stick in Your Mind. That's what grabbed my attention. Now, Mike says he's heard of it, but not heard it. Long story short, it's a collection of Stones outtakes and Andrew Loog Oldham instrumental tracks that Mick Jagger put vocals on. And the story of how it came to be released is a very long, convoluted story. Not going to get into it here and now because my voice is dying rapidly. I got to sign off fast, guys. But it's a very interesting story in the machinations of the record business and contracts and how these things work. Anyway, Andrew Loog Oldham thought he was Phil Spector. And he made all these instrumental tracks, including a bunch that Jagger and Richards wrote, and shopped them around to see if people would record their own versions of them. And wouldn't you know it, I've never once ever seen an actual Andrew Loog Oldham production made into a record, but here is one of them by, who is this? Dick and Dee Dee. I don't know who they are, but they do Some Things Just Stick in Your Mind, which is a song off of Metamorphosis on the A side, and Blue Turns to Gray, which is on a Stones album, I forget which one, on the B side. And what's really fascinating about it is that it is the exact same instrumental track on Metamorphosis and the exact same instrumental track on the Stones album, but with these guys, Dick and Dee Dee, doing the vocals. Very weird, very strange, very cool if you're into this sort of hair-splitting, deep dive ephemera, like I am. Never even knew this thing existed till I found it in a pile of beat-up old 45s. Took it home and played it. I love this kind of stuff. This is the thrill and the joy of collecting records, is discovering something that you never even knew existed, and that quite possibly nobody on the planet even cares about. But I love this kind of stuff. So I was very happy to find this and to share it with you guys. And Pissy Chrissy says, didn't I do that with a Stone song? As a matter of fact, I did. Excuse me. A friend of mine who has a label in Phoenix, Arizona, put together a project in which he wanted people to put vocals excuse me, on top of instrumental tracks by their favorite bands. So I got the great Rolling Stones song 2120 South Michigan Avenue, a red-hot rhythm and blues instrumental that the Stones cut in 1965, and took the liberties of putting my own vocals on it. It came out pretty good, I thought. I'm sure it's posted somewhere. It was on a compilation called, actually, Pissy Chrissy, do you know what that was even called? The song was called I Couldn't Get Laid. That was the name of my lyric that I put on top of the Stones track. So maybe you can find Malcolm Tent, I Couldn't Get Laid. Chrissy says it's on Spotify. Can we see a link? Pissy Chrissy is my internet expert. So according to her, it's on Spotify. So maybe Chrissy, before I sign off, can post a link to I Almost Got Laid by me, Malcolm Tent, with a backing track by a certain phenomenal rhythm and blues combo from England in 1965. We'll wait a second and see if Chrissy can look it up before I sign off, because let's face it, I think it's a great track, and I think you guys need to hear it. So while she's doing that, I'm going to do the sign-off routine. I'm going to thank everybody for tuning in. It's great to have you guys here. It's only once a week that I get to yammer on and on and on about records and music to an internet audience. Couldn't do it without yous. So thank you very much, and there you go. Chrissy posted the link. Thank you, Pissy Chrissy. Besides being one of my favorite TPOS recording artists, Chrissy knows her way around the internet. And it's really funny, I was going to reach over and press my computer screen and hit the like, but I don't think anything would happen if I did that. I can't even do it here either, so it's an exercise in futility. So anyway, I hope to see you guys, at least you local folks, at the Danbury Record and CD Expo this Saturday. Got a big old room full of dealers. In fact, we're sold out. Dealer space is sold out. So there should be some real good pickings. If I don't see you there, hopefully we'll see you at the Anti-Scene Milestone 55th Anniversary Show, December 7th. And if not, I'll see you somewhere on the internet. So until we meet again, this is indeed Malcolm Tent saying so long from the Nutmeg State.